My next guest will be facing Johnny Campbell in the main event of Cage Titans 52 on April the 2nd. And of course, it is Aaron Lacey back in the show. Aaron, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, Ryan. It's good to be back. How you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. And I literally cannot wait for this fight with you and Cupcakes. This is such a banger of a regional fight. I know all the fight fans across the area are all excited as well. I just want to start with, you've had some fight cancellations and then replacement fights. You're supposed to fight Zach DiSabatino a couple of months ago. That didn't happen. Now you have Peter Barrett originally. He dropped out, and in steps Johnny. Are you just almost relieved at this point that you have a fight?
I mean, it's kind of something that I've gotten used to. Like back in February when I finally was able to make my return after quite a long layoff. It had been 5, 6, 7 tries of trying to get fights, before that one happened. And that happened on like 2.5, 3 weeks notice. So, I mean, I'm just staying ready, staying in shape, keeping my diet on point, keeping my medicals up to date, just so I'm ready to go. It's not something that I'm letting phase me, so it's it's kind of the way of the fight game lately. A lot of people will take fights, and Cage Titans had a couple of cards pretty much back to back. So I think they maybe caught a couple of people like sleeping on their preparation. They're like, oh, well, I'll be ready for the next one. And then it's like, contracts in your face and social media is blowing up. And you're like, man, I guess I really was not ready. That's not the case for me. So I'm just sitting here ready to go and showcase my skills.
Now, do you know why Peter Barrett had to pull out of the fight? Did he have an injury in camp?
I was told he was not injured. So knowing Peter and like his fighting style and what he brings to the cage, it had to be something, pretty important would be my guess. So, I wish him all the best, and I hope everything's, okay on his end. And I hope that we do get to run it, between the two of us sometime soon.
So stylistically, when you look at Peter Barrett and Johnny Campbell, how different of a fight is this going to be?
Well, I mean, one's lefty, one's righty, so there's always that. They bring different skill sets to the cage. I think Peter is a little bit longer, a little taller. He's a natural 45er. Johnny's coming up from 35, so there's the physicality side of it, the actual height and reach differences between the two. As far as the actual like skill sets go, I think that Johnny has obviously has the vast amount of experience with almost 35 fights. So, he's got me and Peter kind of be on the experience thing. But it's not like I had a specific game plan for either of these guys, with the amount of time to prepare for each of them. There wasn't really a set game plan. It was more, here's where I'm good, here's where I'm not so good, let's fix that. Here's where they're good, here's where they're not so good, let's try to exploit that. And it's all kind of things that naturally fall into the way I fight, even with the change of opponents. I feel my natural style without having to drill in too much of a game plan suits both fights pretty well.
So I mean, I know Peter and Johnny are both very tough fighters. Just from a matchup standpoint, like, is this a easier or a harder fight for you?
Man, neither of them are easy for sure. And as far as like which one is harder and which one's easier, I mean, we can kind of go back to what I just said about like the size and the physicality and skill sets. Like they're pretty interchangeable. They're both dangerous in their own specific ways, and they both bring very specific skill sets to the cage. So I don't think there's one that's easier than the other.
Okay, so as far as like a marquee win, right? Because if you get this win here, and I know that's what you're planning on doing, this has to be the biggest win of your career. Peter made the UFC. Johnny's fought in Bellator. He had a huge win over Henry Corrales. I mean, just a monster win. But is this the same amount of credibility that you're going to get as if you beat Peter Barrett? It was in the UFC.
I think a win over either of these guys is going to be super huge. You know, obviously Peter has the UFC experience, so that kind of brings in maybe like a slightly larger fan base because you got a little more exposure through the UFC. But as far as I'm concerned, like Johnny's definitely a huge win and definitely something that, you know, it'll be a nice feather to put in my cap when I get it done. You know, there's going to be eyes on it. He's very highly ranked in New England as a bantamweight in the East Coast in the United States. You know, he's been in there with the who's who of the 35 division. You know, like you said, he beat Henry Corrales, you know, who's a Bellator staple, and you know he got through him in the second round. So like, it's going to be a big win, and I'm super excited for it.
So does this win, does this get you a Contender Series shot? I know, you know, that's what you've been talking about and wanting for a while now, and your record would really make it seem like you'd be the perfect candidate. Does a big win here, even a finish, does that get you on their radar?
I think a win gets me on everybody's radar. You know, whether it's Contender Series or Call Straight Up or Bellator, like I'm going to be on a lot of people's radar after this win. You know, the Contender Series is a really hard way to get into the UFC. I'd say the only thing that's harder to get you into the UFC is actually going on like the Ultimate Fighter. You know, you can fight in front of Dana White, put on great performance, win, and still not get a contract, which is, you know, just like any other night in the cage. So it's a really tough way, and you're going to have a tough matchup. You know, that's how Peter fought his way into the UFC. Is he had a Contender Series matchup that he won. Hard fought decision, which, you know, you don't really see Dana give a lot of contracts based off decisions from the show. So, you know, it just goes to show you how entertaining Peter's style is. But as far as what's next after this, you know, what could happen and what could not happen. I mean, I'm not really concerned with it at this point. I'm more so just concerned with April 2nd and what's going down April 2nd and what I need to do to ensure that I get my hand raised.
Cage Titans is clearly one of the best promotions in the area, and they have that cool you know, kind of pre-show that they do, Table Titans. I saw you went on that recently. How excited
I
are you
did.
to be there and just at this event, headlining this event?
You know, actually, I just got the news a couple of days ago that we were the headline. As far as like when I got booked with Peter, and then when Johnny stepped in to be the replacement, it was going to be the co-main event. So, you know, being the main event's always cool. Two main event showcases back to back is awesome. You know, it's a good way to come back after such a long layoff to headline two different cards for two different promotions in two different states. So it's a nice little thing I got going for me. You know, I went to the Cage Titans last show, checked out the venue. I'd been there before years and years and years ago, when a couple former training partners were fighting there as amateurs. So, you know, I talked to Mike a little bit. You know, we chit chatted back and forth. He went back and forth with my coaches, management, and you know, we made it happen. They came in with a great offer, and you know, it was something that the opportunity presented to me kind of outweighed the money that was thrown in with it too. You know, I want, you know, like I said on Table Titans, I'm not here to pad my record. I'm here to show that I can compete. And in order to do that, you have to have some of these tougher fights, and that's exactly what I have. So I'm pretty pumped for it.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. Can't wait to see you in there. You haven't been down at Nose Toast for too long, I guess, but you have been there for a little while now, right? Like, so how have you grown the most as a fighter since you've been there? Are you an even scarier version of the relentless Aaron Lacey than we saw before?
Oh, definitely, man. Like in my fight back in February was just like a small snippet of how much I've grown, and I can't wait to showcase even more skills. Like I have a lot of bodies down here pushing me. You know, my one of my training partners, Brody McDougal, is actually has a amateur Muay Thai fight on the same card. He's like the second fight of the night. So, you know, it's been good energy between the two of us, you know, bouncing back and forth. Like if we see the other one getting tired, you know, we just kind of yell at him a little bit, get him pumped up. I mean, I don't really get tired. That's why they call me relentless. So, you know, I just keep pushing the pace and leading by example. So, you know, it's just Man, I'm just like super excited. It's gonna be so much fun. Um, Being down at Nostos has been a really good thing for me. I think having a new point of view as far as the coaching aspect and the approach to the fight game with Devin's experience as a fighter and already as a coach before I even joined the team has been nothing but beneficial for me. I like the attitude in the gym from all the coaches, not just Devin, from the training partners. Even the general members kind of get in, on the vibe and know that like, this is a place where you can come have fun, but like there's a lot of hard work that gets done here too. There's a lot of growing physically, mentally, emotionally, as a person. That's the great thing about martial arts and training and pushing yourself to compete and get ready for said competition, is that if you're approaching it the correct way, you're going to do nothing but grow.
How healthy are you feeling right now as camp winds down?
I'm good, man. I mean, I feel great. The weight cut started, so I'm not too crabby from lack of food from that yet. Just drinking a bunch of water, making sure it's going, smooth and correctly, and getting that dialed in. But other than that, man, my everything feels on point. Like I feel great.
What's your weight at today?
My weight is my weight. I'll keep that away. I'll put it that way. I have a decent cut. It is at 45, which is my natural weight class. So I'm glad to be back down there and get back to the actual cut. It makes it kind of feel a little bit more like a fight week. This last one was up at 55, so I mean I had breakfast the day away, and so it's kind of weird for me as far as that goes. But the weight's on point. Everything's on point. I mean, there's these little bumps and bruises, but that's the fight life. And you're never gonna go into a fight 100%. And but I mean, I'm about as close as that I could be with still knowing that I put the necessary work in.
How often are you making it up to Bangor nowadays to see the family up here? I mean, I know you're down there full time training. What has that balance been like since we've last spoken?
So when I actually have a fight booked, I don't go home. I train 7 days a week. Some days they're just a little lighter than others. That's why I'm down here in the first place. I have a full-time job down here, so I have to be here Monday through Friday anyway. I've only been home 4 or 5 times this year, since the beginning of the year, since Christmas, really. So I mean, yeah, it's not ideal. Like I definitely, I miss my wife, I miss my family. Um, but we talk often. I've texted the wife, pretty much all day, and we usually have a daily phone call if we can't get a little FaceTime in. We always communicate. We check in with each other. I try to make sure everything up there that I can kind of take care of from a distance gets taken care of. And, we just have a very open line of communication. It's not ideal, like I said, being away from them, not being able to see them and, see my dog. Like I miss my dog and, I'm Allie. So it's not fun, but it's a little extra fuel on the fire, to know that like, hey, like this is a choice I'm making. Like I could go home, I could, skip entire weekends of training just to go see them, but I know that that's not the correct course of action to give me the best possibility of being successful. And that was the whole kind of like impetus for this, was just to like be successful and put myself in the best position to succeed.
For sure. No, I totally hear that, man. I wanted to ask you too, your former training partner, Josh Harvey, he has the biggest fight of his career as well, right around the corner. He's taking on Adley Edwards for ex-MMA. Do you know much about Adley? Have you seen him? What kind of a fight do you think this is going to be if you know a little bit about him?
I honestly do not know anything about him. I saw that it was happening, and I've had my fights get booked and canceled, and that's kind of where my head's been at. I mean, they both have the exact same record from, what I've been told and kind of seen through social media. So I'm sure he's a tough opponent. I haven't looked into his actual record and to see who he's fought and who he's beat and where he's been. But they're both game fighters is going to be my guess. So I don't know any actual specifics about him though.
Okay. As far as the UFC goes, I have to ask you, man, because you're a guy that carries yourself with class, and you respect the sport. So, what's your take on what happened between Masvidal and Covington outside of that steakhouse in Miami?
Oh man, that's a tough situation. I'm not a huge fan of the way Kobe Covington trash talks. I know trash talk is kind of how he sells himself. He's the heel, but if that's what you're gonna choose to do, at the end of the day, you do have to realize that this is just a competition, and there are certain boundaries and certain lines that should not be crossed. And honestly, I think Kobe crossed a lot of them, insulting, bringing up somebody's family, their wife, kids, like how good of a dad they are. I mean, when you don't have a wife or kids of your own, it's not really something that you can speak on, in my opinion. So, as far as Jorge's like reaction to it, I mean, I'm not the one that got trash talked like that, but all that I will say is if someone's saying that about me in public, I mean, they're not necessarily just walking away from that situation.
Okay, fair enough. Well, let's talk about Cage Titans 52. Again, it's going to be in Plymouth, Mass, the Plymouth Memorial Hall. Johnny Cupcakes Campbell, 21 and 14. He has a UD loss most recently at Fury FC. Prior to that, that big win over Henry Corrales that we talked about earlier. Break this fight down with for me, Aaron, without giving me your game plan. Just how ultimately do you see this one playing out?
I'm just gonna go in there and have fun, honestly. Like I don't think he's really had enough time to game plan for me. I've been training, I've been getting ready, I'm in shape. Hopefully he's been doing the same thing. He took this last minute just like I took it last minute. So I really hope that I get the best version of cupcakes that there is, so I can bring out the best version of myself and showcase exactly what I'm capable of. And in order to do that, I just need to stay loose and have fun. I think I can take the fight anywhere I need to take it. I think anywhere it goes, my skills can more than compete. So it's just going to be about going out there and having fun and putting on my pace and doing me.
Man, I cannot wait for this one. April 2nd, Cage Titans 52, Aaron Lacey, Johnny Campbell. One of the best regional fights that we've had here in a very, very long time. Aaron, always great talking to you. As always, I want to give you the floor. Tell people where to follow you on social media. And if you have anyone to thank, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you, Ron. As always, it's great talking with you. So I do have a fight page, Aaron Relentless Lacey on Facebook. I do have Instagram, Relentless underscore MMA 91, or you can type my name in there. So you can go ahead and follow that. I know a lot of people find my actual like personal Facebook page, and I post quite a bit there too. So Aaron Lacey just right on Facebook. I'm riding kind of small on the sponsors again, just because of the not knowing if I was actually going to fight or not. But I have York's Barbershop. Jeremy is actually a member down here at Nostos, so he's a great guy, super huge fan of everything MMA. I got Sea of Tranquility Massage Therapy. Jen Moon, it's my girl back up in Bangor. Every once in a while when I get home, she'll squeeze me in on a weekend and get me lined up right. And also my good friend and longtime friend now, actually, Lori Saveyu. She came out of the woodwork and gave me some nice words of encouragement and some awesome financial support. So thank you, Lori, and my Nostos family down here, man. They've been a huge support system. And, as always, got to thank the wife that saved the best for last. She's been through a lot, as well as I have. So that's about all I got, my friend.